There's no great way to deliver this video, but I need everyone here to pay undivided attention, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter what you believe in. I'm #1 whistleblower in the world for mRNA technology. You may not believe that, but maybe you should listen to me first. Maybe you should hear me out and not just come to your own conclusion with reasoning before you hear the information. Because most people do. They literally avoid what I'm saying. And when you're the most avoided person in the world, and yet the one that can help you the most in the time that you're in, you should really consider that. I'm one of a kind worldwide. There's no one else on earth like me, developed like me. I was developed deliberately. I was selected and put through a path for a certain reason. At 5 years old, I told my mum about the worst moment in her life in 1945 of World War II, 15 years before I was born. She thought it was a freak of nature, but I could see into the past and into the future. I can see déjà vu and predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. I've been doing it my whole life. And I'm very, very rarely wrong. And that's recorded by the biggest think tank in the world on 7 massive peer reports, massive investigations by the biggest think tank in the world. They know I have the most divine power to see into the future and many other extraordinary abilities by the biggest think tank in the world in the Star Chamber Inquiry held on the 1st of January 1999. I was the most wanted criminal in Australian history, right, in the Star Chamber Inquiry with 105 people arrested in an inquiry. So the Star Chamber Inquiry in 1999, I was the most wanted, okay, and became the most targeted criminal in the underground world because I exposed mind control and the depopulation plan, okay? And that's why you need to pay attention to me, no matter what you think, no matter what you're thinking and whatever you're thinking about. There's no one else in the world that knows more about this than myself. I'm a witness to things you've never witnessed in your life. Things that I know you know nothing about. That's why it's critical you pay attention. I've sacrificed every single thing in my life, my family, my loved ones, my friends, my children, my grandchildren, and I'm dying for you. I'm sacrificing myself for you right now. I'm literally dying. I'm getting very weak and I'm targeted. Okay, I'm very heavily targeted. Right, I've been killed once before. They've tried to set me up and kill me several times. It's not the first time. I've made many videos about this. I died in 2012, clinically dead for 23 minutes, sorry. Okay, and they had 3 different surveillance, right, Bluetooth machines around my house on each corner and each telegraph pole in a T-junction. And a gadget inside my house they tried to kill me with. But I survived. And I became the most complicated issue. This happened in 2012 after I served 10 years in jail. After I wrote my book in 2004 and exposed what was happening and they stopped the book with 66 court orders when I was in jail, I was exposing what they were doing with one of the most powerful documents on earth that I have in my possession. I took over the 2 top scientists from NASA when they sent 2 top scientists from NASA into Ormo, Brisbane, Australia, and 5 international networks back in 1980. They developed 10-ton amphetamine and sent to Amsterdam and Florida, 10-ton each way, every month for 14 years straight, between 1980 and 1984. Google had up the hive in a black web called the Hive. A guy by the name of Uncle Fester from NASA was sitting on that hive, directing people all over the world how to create meth, amphetamine and methamphetamine with 208 different programs, okay? This was a psyop program set up by the military, by NASA, okay? And you need to pay attention to what I'm saying to you. There's not too many people in the world that knows about this. But I became #1 drug lord in the underground world, in charge of the 7 most powerful networks in Australia, and in charge of the 2 top scientists of NASA. And we created bread manna, used in the Bible by Moses and Christ. Okay, I had no idea about these things on the Sumerian tablets. Okay, I was in the underground world. I didn't go to church, okay, and I didn't read the Bible. But I was specially selected to go through this path for a very powerful reason. And nobody knows what I know. That's why you have to pay attention to what I'm saying to you. There's no one else on earth like me. I can promise you, there's nobody else on earth like me. And that's recorded with evidence backed up, with DNA studies done and the most powerful think tank in the world. There is no other primordial being as powerful as me, with divine intervention through hospitals, right? By the biggest think tank, the biggest mastermind in the world they've ever dealt with. They got them for treasoning to reverse their plan. Hitler's plan. Listen to me very carefully now. Harari says in the fourth industrial revolution, the WF plan, we're going to replace the natural silicon life with intelligent design, and that's alien intelligence. He says Christ and God is over. We're going to create our own gods. We have the divine power of creation and destruction. This is what he says. We warned about him in the Bible, born in Israel. He's born in Israel, the prophet. Obama calls him the prophet. A lot of people calls him the prophet. And we warned about this prophet in the Bible, born from Israel. And that's Harari, 100% guaranteed. 10 kings we're to watch out for. They're sitting at Geneva with Garvey at the top, where Satan dwells, wording up the search machine to the porthole of the personality into the matrix that's controlling the whole world under the World Wide Web. Mind control. We exposed that in 97. That's why Julian Assange ended up being locked up in England for exposing the documents that we hacked from the hub. We hacked the hub. We were the Anonymous that no one knew anything about. The leaders of Anonymous. We hacked the hub. We were the most wanted in the underground world in the Star Chamber inquiry. We went against the whole system and the depopulation plan. We started the Extinction Rebellion, going against the 6th mass extinction, stripping the 6th sense for the 6th time. That was declared worldwide on the 27th September 99. That the world is crazy, and we're going into 6 mass extinctions being stripped from the 6th sense for the 6th time. And your 6th sense, a picture that tells you 1,000 words can allow you dimensional thinking, remote viewing, metals of liberty, ESP, telekinesis. Okay, to predict the future event, what's going to happen in deja vu. And it doesn't work in anybody anymore. They're all anti-clockwise now. They cannot think instinctively anymore. That's why they made the Matrix documentary in 99. Those that think instinctively tune our program. So you've got to pay attention to what I'm saying here for a moment. Because it's not what you think. These 2 top scientists from NASA, okay, there's a big plan behind this that I've made many videos about how this began back in the 1970s, right, with the chemical war bomb that was dropped in Cambodia that killed 2,600 people. The leading scientist that built the bomb was the first chemical war bomb. He's known as Uncle Fester. Okay, he went up in court trials, right, back in 1980. Okay, 1980, because America got busted for dropping the bomb in Cambodia. Okay, and it became a world media, right, all over the world. So pay attention to me, because you can't see it today. But a lot of people know about this. The biggest court case that went live worldwide was this one here. Why did America go in with a chemical war bomb and drop it in Cambodia and kill 2,600 people to test the bomb? Because it was just being tested. And it's not the first time they've been doing shit like this. They dropped all the atom bombs in Australia and killed all the Aboriginals as well in the 40s and the 50s. And Moo Islands and East Islands, they dropped bombs everywhere. Killed all the Aboriginals, right? And ethnic coal that Hitler was trying to create. So they finished it off for him as much as they could. That was the Americans. They dropped the bombs, you know, like Hitler's plan was to do an ethnic coal. It's a known fact. And he's using drugs to do it with. Mind control weapons. Been using for 100 years. They've been using for 100 years. It's always about depopulating the black people. The 24th chromosome, the double Y double X chromosome. And people believe this, it's our Y chromosome. We have the same chromosome. It's the one we're supposed to follow. But ours is in dormancy. Because they've reversed our psychology in the whole world. So everybody's anti-clockwise in their body cells going corrupt collision during the daytime and can only be at nighttime. So we're trapped in the 23rd chromosome, the seed of the dragon. And we're trapped in a reptilian mentality with amnesia. In a reincarnation trap, we keep coming back. That's what we do. We have amnesia and keep coming back in a reincarnation trap. That's why Christ learned reincarnation in the life after life. And at 24, he woke up from amnesia and he said, I'm son of David, son of Abraham. And now this genetic memory, which is a genetic process. Okay? And some of us have our genetic memory with our genetic process. okay, with their ancestor tools. But most people don't, because they have amnesia. So they do not know what they do in their mind with their personality when they're trapped in mentality. That's why we wake them up in the Great Awakening, from amnesia and the reincarnation trap, and take them through a rabbit hole to the light in the tunnel. Take the red pill and you can't go back, you cross over. We do that in 40 days, and we show you how. Every day we save people, and I know how to save people from every single thing that's happening across the world today. Today I want to present something powerful to you. Okay, a video I put on my timeline last night. I'll put in the link with this post, okay? So I need you to listen carefully. This video is a video of Ricky Ricardo in Australia, right, with an interview with Dr. Brian, right, Dr. Brian Ardis, okay, A-R-D-I-S, Dr. Brian Ardis. He's getting world attention now, okay? This is going big with the studies done and how every single vaccination, right, has poisons in it. Snake poisons and shellfish poisoning. Now, I know a lot about the shellfish poisoning and what it does to your biological system in your central nervous system. I also know how to get the shit out. Okay? This is the biggest thing exposed worldwide through aerosols being sprayed into all different sorts of things. And you'd be amazed how many people has got this poison in their system. It's more than you think. Right? And it's come into our society through many different aerosol sprays, vaccinations, and drug delivery systems. And a lot of people believe to all this stuff, okay? They can't deal with the truth, they can't handle the truth, they can't face the truth. And most people are in denial, okay? Because they're controlled, right? Under mind control, by a voice of mind that controls them. That's ultimately designed from things and declared by Jim McGuiz and 16,000 top scholars in the world. Well, listen to the wrong voice of mine. Also declared by 45,000 teachers. And, you know, everybody's in the reverse psychology engineering in 98.7% anti-clockwise, where their body starts going corruption illusion in the daytime and can only be at night time in the aura. And the aura is your boldness, reliability, your power. And only 1.3% is clockwise, 24 hours a day without mental disorders and defects, while Westerners are riddled with them. 1,000 to 7,000 defective genes and unnatural selection by the truckloads, with artificial intelligence, evolution mutation, and by atheism, the way they're designed in the grammar and what they select themselves without realizing it. But it shows you who they really are. Because I can tell you now, a drug delivery system is also a truth serum. mRNA technology, the oldest mRNA technology is methamphetamine used in magic potions all the way back from Nimrod, Gilgamesh. And that was Hitler's plan. And that's Harari's plan. And when you understand this correctly from the Sumerian tablets, how they control the human population in Babylon, the Persian, the Greek and Roman days, and the Pharaoh days, when Moses took them all over across the desert, and they all suffered the human conditioning. Everybody suffered the human conditioning from one degree or another. Okay, they just wanted to go back to Egypt. They were in the desert. But then Moses used bread manna to reconduct their body cells, right, and to get their organs free running, right, with the tree of life known as Jacob's ladder, the Neuralink, which is to shiver in your spine and your body cells in the most positive fields, and to use your gut feeling survival mode, the chakra, the self-preservation for life, that activates 130 nucleoside molecules, genetic repair kit, so your aura is clockwise, and 2 molecules of mentality. And we can take the blood from a 5-year-old and it can preserve an adult, right, in a blood transfusion, because a child from 0 to 7 is perfect with all those abilities. But he gets institutionalized in education and mentally institutionalized, right, like an IQ robot, and starts to think critically. When he can mastermind a computer game between 3 and 7 and respond 7 times faster than any adult with the highest IQ people in the world. We've proven to you on YouTube, third-eye children, superhumans, by the time they're 8, they can read, draw, and write blindfold and use the 6th sense with their third eye. And by the time they're 12, they can predict the next car coming around the corner and what colour it is. Okay, so they've got deja vu with remote viewing. They can predict this ring on your phone and what they're wearing on the other end. Okay, all the way across the planet. They can predict this ring on the phone and what they're wearing on the other end with remote viewing. And that's a natural ability that is stripped from them when they go to school, to be mentally institutionalized with an IQ and artificial intelligence and be competitive creatures. Then they rock out of school at 8 years old, okay, and call their parents dinosaurs as they become homotech robots and cold-hearted and reject their own genetic process and their ancestral tools by behaving like this, to be competitive little creatures in artificial intelligence. And they do that from generation to generation in every Westerner, because they're selfish people, self-centered people. Okay, they're the selfish, self-centered civilization, just like their forefathers, Noah and the naked drunks. They couldn't live to be any more than 120. Took away their universal language, created collusions, all right, delusions and paranoia with religious, political behavior and new nations and new cults where people can't even understand each other. And Americans with the most confused, spellbound language thinks they're the God-given gift to mankind like an atheist does. That's why they're the most artificial human beings in the world. In America, the worst eating defects and worst mental disorders, and 77% of children born today with chronic diseases, with hereditary genes, because they live in denial. And they're the most powerful species in the world that sits on the screen all day, lives in denial of everything else. In life, they're not connected to life, they're connected to the tree of knowledge and radio waves that controls them with bad addictions and affections, addictions and possessions. They're obsessed with themselves, they're possessed with their own opinions. And that's the way they write all their books and do all their videos. And that's the way that is. That's what people mentally resonate with, because they now mentally resonate with consciousness, which is only a middleman, a middle process, an illusion, imagination. It's mentality, right? There's no such thing as a Christ consciousness. It's being in the Christ image. And people don't even know that concept because they're idiots today. They're back to front and reverse psychology. They live in their mental mind. They live in consciousness and nominate themselves worldwide. Even pastors and preaching Christians live in their Christ consciousness. There's no such thing in the Bible. Never been any such thing. And now they all believe in their own truth. And there's no such thing as your own truth. What kind of crap is that? Right? That's just a way to tell someone else that they're no good. And their truth doesn't mean shit to you because you're something important and you're something fancy. Right? Most Americans now believe that enlightenment, the most powerful enlightenment is authenticity. Really? I can authentically kill you today and authentically be guilty tomorrow. And it's a fancy word for honesty, but it isn't righteous. And that's because Americans aren't righteous. Nothing righteous about them. They're Hollywood characters and American dreamers and actors all over screens that sits on screen all day, thinking they're special with radio waves and a mouthpiece with grammar. But they haven't got any mental telepathy, ESP, remote you telekinesis, or predicting the future and prevent what's going to happen with deja vu. Not even remotely close. They can't use their third eye with dimensional thinking in the picture that tells you 1,000 words are going to lie to you. You can see that in the movie Limitless because we developed the drug. To use 100% of your brain and a vortex of information with sevenfold wisdom laws in your spirituality. When you go back across in your primordial state, into your celestial primordial state, you can use 100% of your brain. Like Matrix documentary, The Resurrection. You control your vessel from the outside in instead of the inside out. You can see that in the movie. Okay? So you don't know who I am because you can't see my celestial being. You can't see my celestial being because I'm in another dimension. And I control my vessel from the outside in. I am DNA, RNA technology. I'm a messenger. 98.7% is an actor because your voltage probability is anti-clockwise in your DNA because that's the tools you depend on. Propaganda, placebo effect, anti-clockwise, mentality, okay, IQ behavior, psychology, literal psychological behavior, book smart education. And you can't think outside the mind. And the mind doesn't know what you're doing. Mind hasn't got an idea how to think outside the mind because the mind's a problem. With voice of mind that tells you that you're something special in this world and think critically with. So go ahead and think critically while I respond 7 times faster than you can think. That was discovered in 1984. I could stamp an Indian number in such a way the X-ray machine 5 years later couldn't detect it. So I could see into the future and prevent what's going to happen. So I went on the biggest mastermind report back then. And the most wanted. Watched 24 hours a day. Because I went on the RSVP list. Research, succeed, reach perfection. When they found out in 1989, is when I went on the watch. When they discovered 5 years later that I could beat an X-ray machine 5 years earlier and showed them how, they were very concerned about me. Extremely highly concerned. 1992, I bring Kirsty Nassy back to life in Ipswich Hospital with 7 peer reports and CCTV. She writes the most powerful poem in 2003, the one and only. They're watching this on CCTV with 7 peer reports. She flatlines from a drug overdose and narcan and taken to hospital. They work on her frantically, given 0% chance of living. In that moment, she flatlines a second time. When she flatlines, her body lifts up 8 inches off the bed, one into the other. And her heart monitor comes back on, and they work on her frantically to save her life. She was still in danger. But they got a shock and flew backwards when her body flew off the bed. 8 inches off the bed, from one end to the other, like a massive electrical shock. But she came to life again. Her heart monitor came back on. It didn't happen once or twice, it happened 3 times. Each time the boldest reliability involved in this in a divine intervention, her body lifted higher and higher and higher until she stayed alive, which is the most astonishing part. Okay? Now, I had no idea. I watched this miracle. I'm sitting in that room. But she writes a poem that I'm the one that brought her back to life. And I can't explain it any other way other than the way that she gives that interview, right? An interview that they had with her when they discovered I'm the most powerful primordial being in the world. And I sat down and had a 6.5 hour interview with 2 top scholars in the world and 2 top authors from the top think tanks in the world. And they said to me, Kim, you're one of a kind in every study done. From the Gatekeeper report, from the Mastermind reports when they stopped your book in 2004, where 66 called us and very scared of you. We know they tried to kill you in 2012. We know what they've been trying to do to you, Kim. You're the most wanted on their list because you're the biggest whistleblower about these things. They know you know. They know you know everything that no one else knows about Hitler's plan and about the WF plan, the depopulation plan, the ethnic cull. Now, if you look at this video right now with Brian Addis, you will see, right, that most people right now, okay, with poison in their blood, okay, with the most gene defects, right, with the most obese. I'm going to tell you something. Trump made a video I put up the other day with Trump, who talks to Robert Kennedy about autism's gone down from 1 out of every 10,000 to 1 out of every 31. Now, they talk about finding out where this comes from, vaccinations or foods or toxic poisons. That's what they talk about. However, what's really intriguing is that Trump put in the warp speed for the vaccinations, and he also had a dinner date recently with Bill Gates. And Bill Gates asked him if it's possible for him to introduce a warp speed on all the new vaccinations with mRNA technology. And Trump said he couldn't see why not. He couldn't see why not. And he's with Elon Musk, who's gone down to the hub in Australia, okay, to do a brain upgrade with mind what? Mental telepathy, or is it mind control? Because which one is it really? I had the documents in 1997. I can tell you what it is. I can tell you what every part of this plan is, no matter what comes out of their mouth. Because I had the document this thick. And that was the biggest concern, that I had the most powerful document on earth. Right? For the whole depopulation plan when they disarmed Australia in 1996 in Australia. Okay, it's all part of the plan with methamphetamine. And we took over 2 times for NASA, and I've got the guns of that disarm Australia on the 18th of January 2001 on the front page of the paper in Brisbane Courier Mail. I've got the guns, right, with Charles Anthony Hurst and Vince Moran, the biggest trafficking case in Australian history, on the front page. And it's the first time we got front page. And you know why we got front page? Because of the guns. A shipping container fully loaded on the front page of the paper. Big black writing says, these are the guns that disarmed Australia 5 years earlier that the taxpayers paid for, and every serial number checked out. So my credibility is pretty powerful. Think about it for a moment. We've got the guns that disarmed Australia that taxpayers paid for, that was meant to be destroyed. And we're in charge of the 2 top sons for NASA. And we create a manner on every testing centre across Australia. Okay, in the Star Chamber Courier. My drug is on every testing centre across Australia with the most powerful networks in Australia. We took down the highest dead time Yankee Keeneland violence and miss violence in 30 years. My arresting officer commends me and retires the police force with many others, the cause of War Commission, paying up for 23 years. For children getting taken off their parents to go into homes to get raped and bashed, and then becomes prisoners and prostitutes later. Part of the marketing strategy with chaos documents by the Rockefellers on reverse psychology engineering that creates chaos in your body cells the minute you go to school, anti-clockwise in your mind. So your body cells go corrupt illusion right during the daytime and collapse all your neural links by the time you're 12 and all your genetic memory. And then your second secretion dies. And you can't create the second secretion, you use the third eye, the sixth sense. So now your mentality instead of personality, instead of spirituality. Like Bruce, you can mastermind by 24 and by 12, be back hardly blindfolded and block every punch 7 times faster than any human being can think in their conscious mind. That's only a 5 sense world. With their body and face expression, with their 2 eyes, they think it's a window to their soul, when it's not. It's It's only a 5D world. I mean, the 5 sense world. Okay? Your third eye's dimensional thinking. So you know all the other species that are here, like the boogeyman, the monster under the bed, that every child knows because the child's innocent and he can feel it and some can see it. The shadows, the angelic beings, but everyone can feel it. Okay? And then the parents says it's just a dream, go back to sleep because they're controlled by it. That's what they go to school for, so they can be controlled by the boogeyman. And then the boogeyman is the voice of mind that's only personality with radio waves. The fifth sense world is a 5D world. Light, power, deceiving, and demonic. In the book of Enoch for a reason, removing the Bible, right? And that's why they removed it. Because the book of Enoch was the most favored man of God that went for every dimension field. He had the most powerful divine intervention, right, with deja vu and predicting the future and preventing what's going to happen. And he was wrapped in the future being Christ, so he'd be perfect for 70 years, also removing your Bible. So what the fuck would you know about the Bible when you've been lied to that much? Huh? That's why Christ was seen as an outlaw. He taught in the streets. He didn't teach in the church. He mastered his mind by Shulam mastermind monks and the Buddhists with bread manna. Because he used bread manna himself. And bread manna comes from a plant called maya as a tree of life. That's what it is. That's why the Vatican calls the other one, the mushroom, right, the tree of knowledge, good and evil. The tree of knowledge, good and evil. Okay, and the mushroom, that's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. All the way back in biblical history. Removed from your Bible, so you know nothing about life. They're both mRNA technology. And the mushroom is a strychnine poisoning for good and evil, which goes in the snake venoms and the seashell venoms. If you're starting to go into this correctly from the Sumerian tablets, from the tree of knowledge, and how shit works around here, you realize the venoms and the snake poisons go all the way back, right, with toxic poison from the mushrooms. The same type of venom. Okay? Your fauna has changed a lot over the years. Okay? Think about mayhem, right? Back in those days, 2,000 years ago, it was pure meth. Okay? Because the oxygen was 10 times more powerful. When Moses took them across the desert, right? They were in the desert complaining all the time with the human conditioning, with the serpents in their mind, which is a hostile entity. The voice mind, ultimately scientific extinction. Okay? And what did they do? Argue, debate, and divide, and all thought they were self-proclaimed nutcases and actors all over the world, just like they all do today. They all suffered the human condition. They were not thinking instinctively at all. They couldn't think instinctively at all. So Moses gave them bread manna, and they reconducted, right? And then they created paradise. But it took them 3 decades, or 3 generations, 40 years, to go back in the primal state. It took them 4 generations to go back to the primal state. As Jeremy Gibbons says in the book Freedom, it may take decades to go back in the primal state. Masterminds take decades to master their mind and use 100% of their brain. They take decades. We teach it in 40 days and 3.5 year transformation. Most powerful transformation on earth. 40-day exercise of fasting through the right tools and a 3.5 year transformation that nobody else in the world can teach that fast. It's the most powerful tools on earth. Christ knew them. He learned in 40 days and went through the transformation for 3.5 years and taught the disciples exactly how to do the same thing. And then they could do it again and more because they had that genetic process to start using every tool that he had and more. Known fact. That's why they drained their blood of them. That's why they killed Aboriginals in Australia. That's why they killed 72,000 in Queensland and drained all their blood. Because they had the same type of supernatural power with the double Y, double X chromosome. The last human being born on earth, found in the nick of time in night, right, was born in 1960, declared by Jeremy Gibbons in the outback of Australia. 450 years old, 10 feet tall, the most loving, compassionate people in the world with an aura so powerful they grow 10 times more fruit with 10 times more nutritional value because they bear the right fruit. And when you stand next to them, it's like love pouring all over you with a relationship you've never had before in your life because they're in the Christ image and they have all those tools to create heaven on earth and they know how to. So they're leading society, right? With Jeremy Gibbons, the biggest, most powerful book on earth, the book of life, freedom. Freedom from the human condition that's going to save humanity. Held by 16,000 top scholars in the world. And when I breathe the program, he's won a Nobel Prize without a credential, right? To restore the oxygen, the holy breath of life with a Neuralink and reactivate all your molecules. We're not breathing. He's won a Nobel Prize. Okay? So with We're Not Breathing in the book Freedom, It'll take you through this in 40 days, all right? If you go into fasting and only take zinc, iron, magnesium, vitamin C, B12, and salicylic salt, okay? And plenty of liquid. You can drink tea and coffee. Don't eat and get off screens and get disconnected from everyone else. Mind your own business and keep to yourself. You need to be into yourself. Meditate. We're not breathing. At least 6 sets, 4, 5, 6 times a day, as much as you can. Go right into your third eye. Meditate deep and create the relationship. Right? Go back in your innocence. Go back in your childhood. As you go through this for 40 days, right, you stop all the unnatural selections. You get off screens, radio waves, and don't interact with people as little as possible. Okay? Just do what you have to do, but don't interact in conversations. Mind your own business. Keep to yourself. Keep your eyes to the ground. Don't stare at anyone. Don't judge. Don't compare nothing. Just switch off for 40 days. Like Christ did. He went in the desert without eating for 40 days. Then he met the demon within himself in the skull that controlled him. Then he woke up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap. And then he discovered who he was at 24 and realized he was son of David, son of Abraham, and had a genetic memory to go into deja vu to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. And that's what's critical here, because I know how to use those tools the best. And that's all that matters, because I teach you how to. These people in 40 days, they go through a certain event, and they get lifted, their spirit, their soul gets lifted right out of the vessel into the light and tunnel that Plato describes in 15 books. Going through the ladder, Jacob's ladder, to the light of the inner tunnel. That's going through every rabbit hole, okay, by taking the red pill. And when you stick your head through the light in the tunnel, you can't go back. You cross over. Once you cross over, you can never be deceived again. And the voice of mind can never control you again. You realize you're controlled by your own personality with a voice inside your mind that you give consent to without even realizing it. That limits you so much in your mind. It's only 7 to 15% of your brain, the highest IQ people in the world. When you go through this, you break free from amnesia and reincarnation trap and the mind control. And you go back into a primal state in innocence. You go back to your childhood and you revise your perception about everything you come to learn in life. And you look back at everything you've done, everything that happened to you in your life, and how evil you've been yourself, and you repent for every single thing and understand how evil you were yourself and why. Because it was never you. It was a personality that controlled you by design. The voices inside your mind. It was never you as a possession. Okay? The serpent's inside your mind. Okay? Sin is inside you. And when you break free from that, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the voices inside the mind that says you do it, and don't do it, you realize it's just a personality. And they deceive you non-stop. And then you cross over for the first time in your life and get the most powerful confirmation, because you literally pull out of your vessel in meditation. You go deep. You create the adrenochrome. The adrenochrome is a meth effect to be alert, alive, waking, aware in your third eye for your sixth sense. It's a meth effect. A child has this ability when he's 5 years old and can mastermind and communicate because he's innocent. And you go back to your innocence. And then you start to see things the same way you did as a child, with your natural process and your natural abilities, with a natural selection. You start to select naturally and stop selecting unnaturally the way you were designed in school, in educated knowledge, to think, and be mentally institutionalized. Okay? That's where you suffer in your mind, without even realizing it. In your IQ behavior, with artificial intelligence, you're not supposed to do that 1 to 5% of work things out with. You're supposed to think instinctively outside the mind, 95 to 99% of the time, because that's where all the magic happens. And that's where the magic begins. And you start to see things differently that you've never seen before in your life. You start to feel things you never felt before in your life. 10 times more powerful. Your Neuralink starts to activate. Your body cells, you start to feel the influence on your reality in the most positive fields. Because now you think outside the mind in your sixth sense. And you start to readapt yourself and go through a transformation over 2.5 years. You start to look back at things. Some people have a bigger battle than others, but you'll go through this. Once you cross over, I lift you out of the vessel to the light in the tunnel, and you see it with your own two eyes. You see the future. You see how beautiful it is. You see what it's like to be heaven on earth. And you feel it, and you see it, and you get the most powerful confirmation you've had in your life. And you can't get it wrong. And that's what you need. You need the confirmation. You need the evidence. And this is the evidence. In 40 days, I'll take you there. Right out of your vessel. Right through the light in the tunnel. And you'll see it, and you'll feel it like you never had before in your life. And then you'll know. Then you're in the knowing. Once you're in the knowing, things will come to you automatically with the movie Limitless. It comes to you out of the blue with sevenfold wisdom and laws. It's a universal connection, a universal codependent relationship, a codependent relationship where the information comes from. Live by it, and you can't go wrong. Live by it, and you can't go wrong. Things come to you, and you start to unravel all the things going on in this world. And you start to select differently with all the right products, okay, and all the right tools, right? So you reject every bit of poisoning, right, and every parasite out of you because you're riddled with them. And that's important that you understand that. These parasites are hostile entities in our DNA, okay? So DNA is declared the book of life. So by using the right tools and following the right bloodline, okay, the family tree of the blood of the Lamb and the 24 seed is a woman's seed. And when we follow the woman's seed, we follow Christ. And we follow Christ and those tools the correct way, we all have the same genetic process and genetic memory to do every single thing that Christ can, every apostle in that bloodline, in our own DNA, with genetic memory and ancestry tools. It's all there in our DNA, the book of life. So we all have the same ability if we understand how to use these tools correctly. And that's what they don't want you to know. That's why I raised this crisis over. Pixar's it is. This is the natural selection with Jeremy Griffiths, the book Freedom, held by 16,000 top scholars in the world who's won Nobel Prizes. They're not on the same page as the governments and WF. Think about that for a moment. They're not on the same page as the governments and the WF. They're not. They're on this page with We're Not Breathing program and natural selection and natural order in life. And that's why this is critical in the time that you're in with natural selection, because I'm chosen by natural selection. And I'm chosen the way that no pastor, preacher, or any Christian is, because you can't get through the thick skull. They're no different than the rest of the world is. They're no different than the rest. They avoid this. That's why I come with the most powerful confirmation on earth, the most powerful whistleblower, and the most powerful witness on earth. And I cannot be competed with anyone, and especially with God, what God created, with biblical prophecies that land on my date of birth for a reason. And it's not my fault. It's the way that it is. I'm not in control of this vessel. He is. And you have to have some faith in what He's doing, and not the way you're thinking, but what the Father's doing, right? Because I've been used like a pawn, okay? You didn't get put through the path I did, and you should thank God you didn't live my life. I got put through hell. And you got to fucking wake up to yourself with what I've sacrificed in my life to save your ass. Because I've sacrificed everything in my life to save you. And then you just fucking avoid me every day and throw stones at me, especially pastors, preachers, and Christians that are fucking idiots. Couldn't care less about nothing but themselves. No different than anyone else. No care factor at all. No love. And certainly no faith. I can promise you that. They don't have any real faith. It's all plastic. That's what it is. It's all fake and synthetic like everything else is in the world. Synthetic human beings. Post-human since 1960, they can't think straight anymore. Declared worldwide in 1999. Can't think straight anymore. They haven't been able to use their genetic process since 1960. And they live in denial worldwide. They declared species 1999. Right? Crazy 99. And species 9 2003 with delusion parasitosis. Now we know those parasites is in voltage reliability, anti-clockwise at 98.7%. And all the kids are parasitic and born deformed. Because they're that deformed now by living in denial. With artificial intelligence and artificial mutation with atheism. And that's the way they think. Mentally and psychologically and literally. And they do not know what they do in their mind. Christ was right. I'm right. Everybody else in the world is wrong. I promise you. I save people every day. They don't. Look at the testimonies of my followers, my platforms. Look at these 10 videos in this link. Look at my history. It speaks 1,000 times louder than any of your words, or mine for that matter. I dedicated my whole life. I've sacrificed my own children, my own family, my own loved ones, my own grandchildren, and my whole life for you. And I'm dying, literally. For you. I'm dying. I'm sitting in prison in Denmark under Interpol, being watched 24 hours a day. How do you think I feel? I'm in prison from all my family members and friends in my home in Australia. I'm sitting in Denmark under Interpol, being watched 24 hours a day. But some people on my side, and they're very powerful. And those top scientists, right, was trying to bring us back in a primal state. That's why they selected me with Brad Manor, the most powerful enlightenment drug in the world, They brought down the highest debt to Hector account in bonds and mezzanines in 30 years. From 1996 to 2000. The lowest in 30 years, and of course the Royal Commission been paying out for 23 years for abusing our children, right, for abusing our biology and our DNA. And they're paying out the black civilization, the stolen big generation, $250 billion a day. And who's paying? WorldBank.org. WF. Why? Because they're the scum of the earth. That's taking all your taxpayers' money. We identified that in 99. They broke your bank in 2007 and took $37 billion to build their sophisticated equipment with mind control. And all their poison to kill you. $37 trillion. They're going underground military bunkers in 227. They knew in the looking glass that's why they're going underground. They know exactly what they're doing. They used all your money to build nuclear bunkers for themselves, to go underground. The Spineless Cows will go underground. You watch what happens to these scum. They don't know the future, but I do. They saw it in the looking glass, and they think they're going to get away with this. They haven't got a fucking hope in hell. They haven't got a fucking hope in hell. I know their future, and they're shit scared. That's why they stopped my book in 2004, because you know something? It's a soul trap. It's not about flesh and blood. The whole thing's been a soul trap. And right now, 98.7% is in a soul trap because they can't think spiritually. The greatest psychological warfare is against your spiritual right warfare. Can you think in your spirituality? Are you in your primordial state to master your mind and use 100% of your brain, or are you living in your personality? People think a mental belief is going to help them get out of this, but it's not. Not in their mind. It's only mental. What they support on a daily basis is the Antichrist, anti-clockwise. They support Baal every day. They support the system every day. They support radio waves every day. And their action speaks 1,000 times louder than words. And that's what they're getting judged by through natural selection in their own DNA. Those that are clockwise are doing the right thing. Those that are anti-clockwise are not doing the right thing. And they're going into 6 mass extinction strip in the 6th sense for the 6th time. And they haven't got a hope in hell unless they cross over by natural selection. They're not doing the right thing. Action speaks louder than words, and words don't mean shit at the moment. Not in the grammar that they depend on, and all the tools they depend on to justify what they believe in. In book smart education, going to church every day. It ain't working for them. Not in their biology. They all die prematurely from stress. Every single species on earth dies prematurely from stress, and not from freedom and natural age. Not one Western does. They keep coming back and reincarnate trap and do not know what they do. That's why their population's going out of control with sex, drugs, and rock and roll and agendas. And they're all gay society. They're all artificial human beings worldwide. They're all in their mentality with their IQ and think they're special, but they're not. They're more scared than anyone else. They're more delusional than anyone else. They're more artificial than anyone else. They're more in panic, anxiety, confusion, frustration, illusion than anybody else. And they're in denial about it more than anyone else. All they live on is their mind and what's going on in the mind, and that's the only thing they've got faith in the voice inside the mind. They can't think outside the mind. They don't have that kind of relationship. They're not in their inner sense. They're trapped in a personality like a Hollywood character, an American dreamer. Every social media platform person is just an actor. They're just an actor for someone else. No matter what comes out of their mouth, they're only actors. They only mental originate. They have no codependent relationships. They have no codependent power in the EMP pulse. They have no loyalty, honor, respect, moral, immorality, inspiration, and encouragement in real life. They have no genuine codependent relation. They conquer, debate, and divide with their own families and friends right all over the world. Every Western does. They can't even keep their family together. They lie. They're artificial human beings worldwide. They can't even keep soulmate relations together because they don't have any souls. They don't judge, right, with instinctive behavior. They don't think outside the mind. They only think with the mind and come to every conclusion with reasoning. And reasoning is the age of nefarious because it's 5 cents and negative feels. So you think about it, and your voice tells you do it and don't do it, and come to your own conclusion with reasoning and believe in your own truth, right, and reverse psychology. And that's nefarious. That's why nefarious is Baal, Baldish, B-R-E-L. Baldish for building the body cells, right, in corruption, corrosion during the daytime, and can only appear at night time for 3.5 hours in 98.7% of the population, anti-clockwise. They're not living in spirituality, they're living in mentality. And every one of these species is riddled with parasites, 1,000 to 7,000 defective genes with poisons, and toxic poisons in every single one of them that are the hostile entities. Right? You can't even see them on cancer. When they do all the research for all the X-rays, they can't even see it. right, with all the nuclear stuff in them, right? You know what you can see about the aura. And if you concentrate on the aura in the body cells, the light, and how your body cells can corruption, illusion, in every study done, okay? We've proven this to you with Tom, and cured Tom from Lyme disease, uncurable, and he shows you the picture of his aura, right, in his body cells before and after. So if we repair your body cells, we repair every single thing that's wrong with you. You go through a genetic process and genetic memory with 130 nucleosome molecules and genetic repair kit, where your body cells work together. When you live by the wine rule equally, how to come alive equally, and you love one another in flesh, in real life, and you live by the quantum mechanics relation only, don't debate, don't debunk, don't cause people to stumble, always have them get back on the feet. Help people around you, no matter who they are, right? Always look after sinners and people hurting and in out of prison. When you look after everyone equally, your body cells does exactly the same thing. When you live by it, your body cells does exactly the same thing. So if you live by the quantum mechanic of a relationship, right, with the laws of life, which is the wine rule, to live equally, to govern life equally, and to love one another in flesh, then your body cells does exactly the same thing. When your mentality is innocent in the Father's image, where you sacrifice every single thing to save your children, that's when you sacrifice a thing, to save your children. You sacrifice your children in order to save the whole world, every child on earth. And that's what I did. I sacrificed my own children to save every child on earth, right, that belongs to the Father, that wants to be saved. So I've done that. And I'm literally dying because I've been declared dead a couple of times, right? They tried to kill me and I've never stopped. They hung looked to put me. They've done many things to me. But I've never given up one day in my life, and I'm bleeding blood every day. I'm coughing blood every night. I can barely sleep anymore. I'm getting very weak because I'm targeted the most. And I've been targeted since 2012 with mind control. I made many videos about this, and I never stop no matter what's going on. But I'm always targeted, right, by these systems, and always have been, and I know that. So I'm having the battle of my life of trying to get through things. Okay, I've got the most powerful genetic process and most powerful DNA up to this point in time, but you know what? When I'm being targeted the way I am, shit starts to go pear-shaped. You can't fight this forever, and I've been battling this, right, you know, since 2012, when I was clinically dead, okay, when they started targeting me. And they've been targeting me ever since. Haven't stopped, okay? I've got stage 4 lung and throat cancer, and I'm bleeding all over the place, right, every day, and barely being able to sleep. But you know what? I keep getting stronger, okay? Days will get stronger, days will get weaker. I never give up. What's going to happen in my future, I do not know. But I do know something else. I don't care, because I know I'll be back in a heartbeat. I know my future. I know no matter what, there's a piece missing, right, that I can't see. So whether I go straight through like this or I'm in the future, I can't really tell you, because God just told me, don't worry, son. You will heal. You know your future. You've seen it. You will heal. You will heal. You will heal your wife, and you'll heal everybody. You'll heal the world. Those that want to be healed. I'm telling you, my book is the most powerful confirmation on earth, the testimony of Dr. Reborn. And I told you about Hitler's plan. Okay, it's on the front page. If you go to the link of this post, you go to the link here, or go to the top of my pages, open up the book and read the first paragraph. Read the introduction paragraph on Amazon. Go on, read the first paragraph, because believe me, the vaccination is patent as electronic magnetic device. As Harari says, we're going to remember the vaccination going under the time as the time we went under the skin with surveillance. If you go and look at the study on this, and you go look at the patent for mRNA technology, it's a drug delivery system, right? So no matter what the poisons are, what's important here is why this is critical and why this goes right back in your ministry. It's an electronic magnetic device, and it's hooked up to the World Wide Web so they can induce and send the message for every poison and target people. And that's why I'm telling you, I know how the target works with mRNA technology, because ADHD medication, methamphetamine, has a barcode system, uppers and downers, with pH levels and different frequencies that goes into your biology, into your DNA with frequencies. And you can control those frequencies, right, by thinking outside the mind with your sixth sense in your 27 biofields, right, in the most positive fields. And then no weapon formed against you can prosper. Like they say in the Matrix, those that think instinctively will tune out of the program. So if you're out of the program of what you're programmed to think, and outside that unnatural selection, all the unnatural selection that we've been developed with and designed with for decades and thousands of years is unnatural selections. And when we reject the unnatural selection for 40 days, we stop our selections in that 40 days. We isolate. When you do this and you listen to the book Freedom on audio and do We're Not Breathing, you go back to natural selection automatically. You go right back to childhood, to your innocence, and you start to select naturally. And you do that with the most positive fields in the sixth sense by seeing outside through the third eye. A vortex of information that comes from out of the blue by thinking outside the mind. When you think outside the mind, you're in the most positive fields, and you're not living your mind anymore in 5 senses negative fields. No matter who you are, you're not in your consciousness anymore. You're now in the unconscious part, in dream time. You switch over to dream time. Okay, Aborigines live in dream time all the time. And that's why I made a lot of critical information about this. That's why no weapon from against you can prosper in the oldest civilization, right? Nothing can. Okay, so think twice about what I'm going to say to you. Okay? When you think outside the mind with your sixth sense, you have the God-given powers that no weapon from against you can prosper. And that's your biofields, your biosphere, bioweapon. That's your own bioweapon. So that no other bioweapon, right, can get you. And that's the most critical part. It's faith. It's beyond the mind. It's 10 times more powerful than your reality. Okay, that gives you the divine power to command nature. And then you have an aura around you that rejects every other radio field and every negative field and every other radio wave. And you have the power with the aura, a shining armor. Will come from the cave of prison with the truth of masses, right, in raggedy clothes and shining armor. The shining armor is your aura. Your aura's 10 times more powerful than you've ever known in your life. Okay, and it can make you feel things with real love. And you haven't got feelings anymore. You follow your mind. That's why you can't feel the difference between right, wrong, and evil anymore. You don't even care anymore. Because it's gone. The care factor's gone. Okay? Your love is gone. Your care factor's gone. And you can't feel the truth anymore. Well, it's 10 times more powerful than you realize. But it's your mind that's a problem that oppresses it. So when we cross you over, you start to follow your feelings and become very sensitive. And you also get a massive clarification. And that clarification is dimensional thinking, remote viewing, mental telepathy, ESP, and you see the future. I take you out of the visual so you can see the future, you can feel it. For the first time, you see deja vu. And that's what people see, and there's a confirmation.